Good evening, brothers and sisters, participants. Today is our, pangilang day na ba natin?
14th po, ate.
14th day of the 21-day Divine Principle Lecture Series, and we would like to start with the singing of the Chunilgu National Anthem. Dean, can you play the CIG anthem?
Hello, good evening, brothers and sisters. Good evening to our elders who's with us today. Hello, brothers and sisters. Okay lang po kayong lahat? So now that we have already sung the Chunugog anthem, let's begin our session for tonight with an opening prayer. May I request Kuya Nicole Lamasao to lead us with the opening prayer.
Unmute daw, yeah.
Okay, once again, please join my prayer. Our beloved Heavenly Parents, our victorious true parents of heaven and earth, today, once again, we invite your holy presence to come with us for this moment of time, we have to attend again the Divine Principle lectures online. So we pray all the leaders, brothers and sisters now. We pray that we can able to prepare ourselves both internally and physically. We can able to utilize and absorb all things that we hear and what we truly understand deeply more about your words and inspiration and encouraging heavenly parents and how you also able to truly gives us inspiration and more strong determination. So we know that this lecture is very important. It is a part of your effort, heavenly parents, that you save the people in the past up until now and even to the future. Thank you, everything, Heavenly Parents. I would like to offer this prayer in the name of our victorious true parents of heaven and earth. Adieu.
Ju. Thank you so much, Leah Nicole, for offering the prayer. So, good evening once again, brothers and sisters. Good evening, lecturers, and then staffs. Good evening sa lahat. So, before we proceed with the lecture, may I request everyone to please open your camera so that we can first take a picture all together. Brothers and sisters. Hello, everyone. I'm Ate Jenna and Sir Randy. If you can please open your cameras now.
Maka-open si Jenna ng PAM.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yes, please let me take the pictures now. So your faces are your responsibility. Please give your best smiles, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters. Hannah, do set, smile. Okay, another one. Tawag nito. Heart sign. Small heart, small heart. Hannah, do set, sarangin. Okay, thank you. Another one. Vision 2027. Sumi. Okay, thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Few reminders. If you can, please just keep your cameras open for the whole duration of our lecture for tonight. In that way, we will be able to see you and check your attendance as well. And in that way, we could also, we will have an interaction between the lecturers and the participants. So yun. I hope everybody can. But if yung internet naman is so slow, we can understand naman if it's really not possible to open your cameras. But as much as possible, if kaya naman ng internet, I hope keep natin na open yung ating cameras. So thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Okay. Welcome ko naman sa video.
Ay, sorry. Sorry. So, before we proceed with the lecture proper, can we have expectation and recap of the last lecture? Can I have volunteer? Pwede bang may volunteer po? So, how about Miss Nell G? Chapter 2? Chapter 2 siya. Chapter 2. Miss Nell G, paki-unmute, paki-unmute yung sarili mo. Yan, okay na.
Yes po, hello po, good evening po. Narinig po.
Yes,
Yes po.
okay.
Yes, ang pangit sa ay, ang sakit sa ano dito. Pwede na to. Hindi naman tayo. So, yeah, naririnig kayo. Hello. Yes po. Sorry ka po yung sa about kay Moses po. Um, kung paano po na-prolong yung providence po because of the faithlessness of the people. And yun. So far, yun lang po muna masasabi ko. And then, sa expectation po, hindi ko po masyadong gets yun eh. Kasi may parallel. So yeah, ano ba yun? Providential. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Wait.
It's tawag doon. Chapter 3 is all about the periods of providential history and the determination of their events. So let us let's begin the lecture proper. And I would like to introduce my partner, the youngest among the UPTA lecturers. And she's also, paborito namin siya. Paborito namin siyang pagkaisahan. It's an expression of our love for her because she is so charming like her mom and her sister. So let us welcome Miss Christine Bell de Ayopera.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Good evening once again, brothers and sisters. Good evening po, Kuya Randy, Kuya Hervin, Kuya Ray, Ate Redina, Mama, and to all the brothers and sisters, good evening po. So today, I'll be giving a short reflection, a very brief lecture about chapter 3. So yun. So I'll do my best to deliver this right to to everyone. So yeah. So tonight, di ba we have already from the previous section, actually we're almost there. Malapit na natin matapos. We're beyond halfway already with the divine principle. So tonight naman we will be talking about chapter 3, the periods in the providential history and the determination of their lengths. So we will be focusing on section 1, wherein we will be talking about parallel providential periods. So before we begin to the lecture, before everything else, I think everyone would agree, or everyone have already heard the phrase that history repeats itself. Diba? It's a very famous quotation that we hear from elders, and then not just from elders, but even in school. And every time we talk about history, it's inevitable that we get to meet that phrase, that history repeats itself. And then everything is just repeating just the way how it has happened from before. So from tonight, we will be talking about how history has been, briefly, we will be briefly talking about how history has been shaped, and then how parallelism is fair. So we will be talking about the parallel providential periods, and then the factors why parallel providential periods happen continuously. So why does this repeated periods happen again? So that is our main goal for tonight. So when we talk about parallel, so when we go back to our junior high school years. We have already met parallel lines, right? So when we talk about parallel lines, the characteristic of a parallel line is that they have the same direction, and they goes toward the same direction, and they never meet or converge. Although it's not necessarily that parallel lines have the same length or width, but um, yun, they have the same goal, kumbaga. They have the same direction. So that is the characteristics of parallel lines, which we can see from our discussion from tonight. So, so what are parallel periods? So examining the course of history, we often find cases where the various circumstances of a period in history are being repeated in similar form during a later age, although it's not necessarily the same happening or exact happening from the past. But then when we examine deeply the course of history of humankind, there has been somewhat similar periods or similar happenings or occurrences in the past that have happened or that is currently happening in the present. So, and some historians are impressed by these phenomena and point out that the history progresses in a spiral movement. Yet, what we do not know is that why is this happening? So, although it has been acknowledged by historians and then scholars that our history is um, acting like in a spiral course. But then what we do not know is that why is this happening? So yeah, so this is something that we will be um, determining this tonight. So what is the meaning of a parallel providential period? Why does it occur? So when a period in history repeats the events of a previous period, albeit with differences in scope and degree, the two periods are called parallel providential periods. So look at citing from this one. Uh, let's just say this is the a period of history, period A, and then in the period A prime, there has been a similarity within those two. So these three periods from period A to A prime to A double prime, these are called the parallel providential periods. So the principal cause behind these parallel lies in God's providence of restoration through indemnity. Why is this so? Since we have all known that from the very beginning of since the creation of human beings, from how we have come into being into this earth or how everything has existed, God has already been there. And even after human beings fell, we have known that God is still there. God is still acting on the background. And that is why during the course of history, from the moment human beings have fell, although we might not be conscious about it, but God is still acting on background. That's why this repeated periods or parallel providential periods are God's providence of restoration through indemnity. So these are His actions, or these are His will that um, we could all be brought back to His bosom. So this is God's doing. So this is what it is trying to say here. So, but how does it come about? How do parallel providential come about? So the course of history has been shaped by various events in the providence of restoration. We have all known and witnessed that, and which drives history toward a fixed goal. And we have known that that fixed goal is for God to send the Messiah, or send His Son, who will restore all mankind, or who will bring salvation to all mankind. So with that fixed goal, God is sticking with that fixed goal. The same way as how we all have this desire, may it be to get rich or to finish studies. That despite all the challenges, no matter how many times we fail, we still continue to reach our goals. That is the same way, although not the same, exactly the same with God's desire, but then it is somewhat similar to how God really is fixed with that goal to really bring the Messiah, to send the Messiah here on earth. And that way, all human beings could be restored and could go back to his bosom. So yun, when a central figure in the providence fails his responsibility to restore the foundation for the Messiah, the providential period centering on that person comes to close. So God is forced to close that period since um, attaining the goal would be impossible already since Satan can already claim that central figure. So let's just say, for example, in the period of Noah, when Noah failed, God can no longer work on Noah again since um, he has to work on another person. So that is how it is being. That is what is happening during the course of history. So every time human beings fail or the central figure of that period fail, then God is forced to close that period and choose another person um to continue the mission that has been that the first previous central figure had failed to use. So yet since God has predestined the absolute and eventual fulfillment of his will, he chooses another person to carry on the mission and opens another historical period. So since this new period restores to indemnity the previous period, a course with similar events will be repeated. This is how the periods come to be parallel to one another. So that is how parallel periods exist. Kasi God will work again with the same mission, with the same giving the same mission to that new central figure. Although the difference is that the central figure in this particular period must restore in his time the unfulfilled indemnity condition of the previous period. So if this person have already failed, and then what his mission, except this another person would have to indemnify this person's failure. And also so it's different from fulfilling his mission. He also has to fulfill the previous mission of this person. So there is another, if we think about it, if this is a bag of person, and another person, he will carry that bag, another bag. So he would not, he doesn't only carry one bag, but he will also carry another bag, so another add on to his load. And then if that person fails again, then this new central figure that God will choose would also bring again, I would also has to indemnify the failures of these two. Thus, all those failures will accumulate and all those loads will be added onto this new central figure. So the more the providence of restoration is being prolonged and vertical indemnity conditions or the conditions of the past accumulate, the heavier will be the horizontal indemnity conditions or the conditions that the new central figure must fulfill. So consequently, the new parallel period will differ from the previous parallel period in content and scale. This is why parallel periods do not have exactly the same form. So imagine that these this new central figure has to carry another two more bags two more bags. So the scale would not be totally the same anymore with that compared to the first central figure who failed or the second central figure who failed. So that is why, and that's why when we say, when we go back to the definition of a parallel line, it does not necessarily mean to be the same with the same length. What is the most essential concept in the parallel lines are that they go to the same direction and they never converge and or diverge. So that is what happens when parallel periods comes to being. So yeah. So the three stages of a growing period may be classified according to the different stages of manifestation. So if you recall, there is a three growing periods, right? So there are three stages in the growing period. That is the formation, the growth, and the completion. So the formation stage is a manifestation in symbol, and then the growth stage is the manifestation in image, and the completion stage is the manifestation in substance. So, likewise, in the development of history, the parallel periods in the providence of restoration have repeated similar events according to this pattern. So, thus, the entire history of the providence of restoration may be divided according to the form of the parallels. So the age of the providence to lay the foundation for restoration is the age of the symbolic parallels or in the possession of the formation stage. And then the age of the providence of restoration is in the age of image parallels or in the growth stage. And lastly, the age of the prolongation of the providence of restoration is the age of substantial parallels or in the completion stage. So this is what the course of history is also going through. So after the age of the symbolic parallels, it goes to the next stage, to the image, up until the substance. And then after this are restored and completed, then we can be able to reach our goal and human beings can reach perfection. So these are the three parallel periods. These are the three ages of the parallel period. Yeah. So then now let us examine the main factors which determine the formation of the parallel providential periods. Why does it um why does providential periods happen? So why is there a parallel providential period? So although we have already learned that it happens because of the God's providence, it's because of God's providence and restoration, and then it is because of the failure of human being of the central person. We will be briefly examining it more deeply at this time. So the parallel providential periods recur because of repeated dispensation to restore the foundation for the Messiah. And if we remember, there are two factors for the foundation for the Messiah. There must be a foundation of faith and the foundation of substance. Only when these two are completed can be the foundation for the Messiah happen. And if this two is being completed, then the foundation for the Messiah will happen. So the Messiah can already come in on earth. So, and if we recall, the factors that belongs to the foundation of faith are the central figure, the object for condition, and the numerical period. And for the foundation of substance, uh, indemnity condition to remove fallen nature must be accomplished or must be fulfilled. So accordingly, the factors which determine the foundation of parallel providential periods are these two. So the three conditions necessary for the foundation of faith, central figure, object for the condition, and the numerical period of indemnity. And then second, the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature, which is necessary to restore the foundation of substance. So actually, yun lang. That is all what we're going to talk about for this section. However, so the main point here is that if the foundation of faith, although the foundation, example, the foundation of faith have been accomplished, but then the foundation of substance have not was not accomplished, then it would mean that the foundation for the Messiah is not attained, right? So that is why the parallel God has to close that period and once again have to find another person, another central figure to restore or to continue the mission that has been that the previous central figure have failed. Thus, the repetition of similar events will occur. The parallel providential period comes into being. So that is why basically, when we try to summarize it all, the reason why God, the reason why there is a parallel providential period is to really achieve the fixed goal, which is to bring uh, to send the Messiah here on earth for the restoration of the humankind. And then the factors for this to happen is both the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance, or basically the completion of the foundation of the for the Messiah. And if this does not happen, um, yeah, the repetition of history would continue to cycle on until because God will not ano naman kasi God will not stop until he reaches this goal, until he restores all human beings. So that is why the cycle will continue to go on, or the history will continue to move in a spiral movement this until we come to the end, or we have already accomplished it. That is why I am urging, and we are urging everybody that we have to do something about it if we don't want the history to repeat once more. So yeah. So basically, yun lang. I hope you understood, brothers and sisters, although it's very, very short. So yeah. This will be deeply discussed further by my partner, no other than Ate Relina. So let's all welcome her now to discuss section 2 to everybody. So we will be the parallel periods and then their lengths and everything will be discussed further by my partner. So let's all, so kindly help me welcome, brothers and sisters, none other than my partner, our very own elder sister, Ate Relina. 5678, welcome.
Thank you. Ay, chapter 4 na nakalagay dito. Good evening, participants, lecturers, and staff of this 21-day online DP lecture series. So, to continue, section 2 is about the number of generation or years in the periods of the age of the providence to lay the foundation for restoration. So, uh, Miss Christine have discussed the three factors in fulfilling the foundation of faith, which is the central figure and the object to of and the object to offer. And the third one is the number or the numerical period or the number of years. And how do we determine that number in numerical period in order to lay the foundation of faith? So first, why does the providence of restoration is prolonged? We must first understand this first so that we in order to before we can determine we will learn how to determine the numerical period of indemnity. So according to the providence, to the principle of predestination, since God absolutely predestined his will, he surely will realize it one day. So, as we learn from the principle of predestination in part 1, uh, the will of God is absolute. and that is to for the establishment or fulfillment of the three great blessings. However, however, whether God's will is fulfilled through any particular individual is conditional upon the fulfillment of his portion of responsibility, which is in addition to God's portion of responsibility. So yung God's will na yon, yung fulfillment of God's will is conditional predestination in the sense that even though God has already fulfilled his responsibility, there is a human portion of responsibility that must be completed. That's why it is said that the fulfillment of God's will is conditional predestination. It depends upon the fulfillment of human portion of responsibility. Which is So, accordingly, when the will is not fulfilled because the responsible person fails, when we say responsible person fails, the central figures that chosen by God, God will choose another person in a different era to take place. God will continue his work until its complete fulfillment, prolonging the providence in the process. So, anong gagawin ni God? So it uh, who does the prolongation? Sino nagde-decide ng prolongation? It is God who prolongs the providence. Why? Because God is willing to wait until uh, a person can fulfill its human portion of responsibility. So now, the reason why restoration is prolonged because of the continuous failure of uh, fulfilling the human portion of responsibility. As a review, di ba? As a review, in the predestination, we know God responsibility is equivalent to just to have a ratio of God's responsibility so that we could appreciate it. It's 95%. And the human portion of responsibility is 5%. But because in our time, because of the success foundation laid by our true parents, it becomes the 5% was 2% was deducted from the human portion of responsibility. Now it's total now the human portion of responsibility because of our true parents foundation, it becomes 3%. So madali ba yung 3%? So uh, ang kailangan nyo lang natin maintindihan dito, it is God who prolongs the providence when the person fails. And that God is willing to wait even though how long it is because his will is absolute. So he is willing to wait no matter what. When will human portion of responsibility or when will humanity will fulfill its responsibility? How do the providence of restoration is prolonged? So, paano na-prolong yung restoration? According to the principle of creation, God is a being of number 3. So, God is a being of number 3. All things created is His likeness manifest themselves through the three-stage process. What do we mean by all things? Ibig sabihin, all creations created in His likeness manifest themselves through the three-stage process. Ano ba yung three-stage process na to? Ibig sabihin, all entities of the creation. And then the three-stage process is the origin, division, union with respect to their mode of existence, movement, and growth. Therefore, whenever the providence of restoration is prolonged, it may extend to as many as 3 stages. So, we already have learned and explained in the previous chapter, especially in the introduction of the part 2 of the divine principle, that the providence of restoration is also the providence of restoration and providence, and it's also equivalent to the providence of recreation. So kung paano yung principle na ginamit ni God when he created the universe is the same principle he will be using in the restoration process. So if in the in the creation process there are 3 stages of growth, there will also be 3 stages of growth as we fulfill the restoration. Same formula yung gagamitin ni God sa restoration, just like or same principle. Since we are talking about or we are talking about numbers, so the formula is the same. The formula that he uses during the creation will also be the same during the recreation or in the process of restoration. So, ano ba yung significance of number 3? Sinasabi dito kanina na God is a being of number 3 and He will be working through the number 3. Based on Mother of Peace, page 37, the autobiography of Mother of Peace, 33 generations after Hanlan, I was born in his lineage. The number 3 and 33 are significant. Jesus asked 3 disciples to pray with him in Gethsemane. He prophesied that Peter would betray him in three times before the cock crowed. Rejected of men, Jesus was crucified at the age of 33, yet he promised to return. He was one of the 3 who was crucified on that day. To one of them whom he said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." On the 3rd day, Jesus rose from the grave. So this is the resurrection, which is the resurrection and the success of the of God. The number 3 signifies heaven, so earth and humankind. It signifies the perfect fulfillment of both heavenly law and natural law. So that is the significance of number 3, which we will be learning in detail later in the next slides too. So what is vertical indemnity conditions and horizontal restoration through indemnity? A central figure, as I said, central figures is one of the factors that wherein we can fulfill the foundation of faith. The central figure responsible for the providence of restoration must fulfill in a short time all the indemnity conditions which his predecessors A, B, and C tried to fulfill. So the central figure shall fulfill all indemnity conditions. So the central figure, minax out natin yung 3, di ba? God is a being of number 3, and as we have learned from the previous chapter, previous slides, we said that the restoration can be prolonged as many as 3. So minax out natin yung susundan nung central figure, so it is A, B, and C. So and also, ito yung kanya previous, yung predecessors niya, si A, B, and C, which is, ito yung pinaka-worst scenario. So, yung worst scenario is meron ng tatlong previous central figure which for which nag-fail nag-fail sila in fulfilling their mission, so that the new central figure will restore it in a short time yung sa time niya. So the conditions which accumulate in the course of providential history are called vertical indemnity conditions. So the mistakes or the failure of the previous central figures accumulates to the next or new central figure. And this is called vertical indemnity condition. And the new central figure needs to restore this, so that when it accumulates, it's become bigger and it's become harder to fulfill. Just like what Miss Christine had explained earlier in the first section of this chapter. The task of the central figure to fulfill all these conditions in a short time is called horizontal restoration through indemnity. When we say horizontal restoration through indemnity, it means during his lifetime. During the lifetime or the given time period when that this new central figure needs to fulfill his responsibility. In this sense, we can understand that each central figure A, B, and C in the providence A prime, B prime, C prime, in the providence of restoration stand not only for himself as an individual, but represent all the forefathers, prophets, and sages who had the same mission in the past. He bears within him the fruits of their labors in history. When we say central figures na sila A prime, ito yung mga vertical central figures, mga previous central figures na hindi na wherein they did not successfully fulfill their mission. And that the fruits of their labors, the new central figure will bear them. When we say fruits of their labor, it means both merits and demerits. What do I mean by both merits? Success, even their success and yung success and failure nila i-inherit ng new central figure. Why is it ang tawag sa kanya fruits? Kasi it is why is it kahit na failure naging na siya, sabing fruits ang description is fruits. It's because is assume na you have learned or the failure of the previous central figure we have learned was nag-learn ka na doon. Ibig sabihin, you should not repeat it anymore. So that's why it is a fruit. Kasi magiging ano na siya, meron ka ng pagbabasihan, pwede mo nang iwasan. So vertical indemnity conditions. For example, Abraham had to restore horizontally through indemnity all the vertical indemnity condition which Adam's family and Noah's family before him had tried to fulfill. So si Abraham, ang predecessor, ang mga nauna sa kanya, ang predecessor niya ay si yung Adam's family and Noah's family. Before him had, in offering the three sacrifices at one time on the same altar, Abraham was to restore horizontally through indemnity the vertical indemnity condition accumulated during the three dispensations of the prolonged providence. So that's the this is the reason why Abraham, this is further explanation why Abraham offered the three sacrifices in one altar at once para vertically indemnify niya or restore niya yung naging problema nila, those conditions that Adam and Noah was not able to fulfill. The three offerings represent all the conditions which Adam and Noah could not fulfill, as well as those which Abraham had to fulfill as the new central figure. So ito rin yung pinag-uusapan natin na ito rin yung indemnity na yung further explanation ng indemnity kasi 'di ba when we don't fulfill our responsibility or when we offer condition na ginagawa natin kung 7 minutes prayer condition we did not do it in time, we have not fulfill it in time, 'di ba anong gagawin natin? Magiging ano yon yung 7 minutes na yon, the next time, the next day, kung halimbawa daily yung nagagawin mo, the next day is magiging 21 siya, di ba? Kasi yung mga nauna, saka yung na condition mo, tapos yung ganun siya. That's the reason why when we failed our condition, we multiply it 3 times. So horizontal, so we have finished explaining vertical restoration. Now we are to explain horizontal restoration through indemnity carried out vertically. Since the work of restoration in Abraham's family was the third attempt. So alam natin third attempt niya. If you can remember yung chapter 1 saka chapter 2 of the part 2 is ang nakalagay doon, the restoration of Adam's family, then Noah's family and Abraham's family, nakalagay siya na family. Third attempt on the level of family or symbolic, just as Miss Christine have explained kanina, which is symbolic offering. The principle required that his family accomplish God's will without fail this time, in his time. Kasi third na, because di ba sabi natin kanina, God is a being of number 3. The providence can be prolonged only up to 3 times. So, kaya dahil third attempt na ng symbolic offering in the family ni Abraham, kailangan ma-fulfill na yung condition this time. Kailangan maging successful na siya yung laying the foundation for restoration on the family level. So, Hence, when Abraham failed in his symbolic offering, he completed it vertically through the generations of Isaac and Jacob. So yun yung dahilan kaya siya binigyan ng second chance dahil doon. And God could still credit him with having fulfilled it in his own generation. This type of restoration is called horizontal restoration through indemnity carried out vertically. So, Abraham need to restore yung mga, di ba? Abraham need to restore the unfulfilled missions of Adam or the unsuccessful missions of Adam and Noah's family. But ang nangyari, unfortunately, he failed in the symbolic offering so that Abraham can restore it at once. So, binigyan siya ni God ng second chance, di ba? So, dahil third attempt niya, kinary out yon ng three generation na kanyang anak at saka ni Jacob. And in total, 3 generations. For Abraham, the providence is prolonged. Sa kanya, kay Adam, na-prolong yung providence niya, but for God's will, providence not prolonged. So let us now learn yung numerical indemnity periods for restoring the foundation of faith. Paano ba na-determine yung length ng numerical indemnity period? So a central figure has to fulfill one or more numerical indemnity periods in order to restore the foundation of faith. So sabi natin, i-review natin, di ba? In order to restore the foundation of faith, there must be 3 factors, yung central figure, yung object of na i-offer, and yung numerical indemnity, yung numerical period, so that ma-fulfill yung foundation of faith. So how do we determine the numbers? The first human ancestors were to lay the foundation of faith based on the significant numbers, including 12, 4, 21, and 40, which represent the numerical growing period. When they then accomplish the purpose of creation, they would have become the perfect embodiments of the quality of these numbers. Anong sinasabi nitong slide na to? Especially the second bullet. Sinasabi ng second bullet, whether or not Adam and Eve have fallen or they have become successful, granting naging successful sila, they need to go to this process also. Kailangan nila they need to lay the foundation of faith. Ano ba yung foundation of faith before the fall nila Adam and Eve? That is to believe in God's word, di ba? Believes in God's word by not eating the fruit na yun yung prohibit ni God sa kanila temporarily. Yun yung foundation of faith nila. So, kung naging successful sila following the commandment of God, na lahat din ng mga numbers ng 12, 4, 21, and 40 na nagre-represent sa growing period nila ay dadaanan nila kahit hindi sila nag-fall. When they then accomplish the purpose of creation, they would have become perfect embodiments of the quality of these numbers. So kung naging successful sila, naging perfect embodiment sila ng ng quality of this number. Sana maliwanag to hindi nila nag-fall at hindi, naging successful si Adam and Eve, ipa-follow nila itong mga significant number na to as perfect embodiments as part of their numerical growing period. So ito yung formula na susundan ng lahat ng tao, Adam and Eve as the model kasi sila yung first human ancestor. Yet, due to their fall, unfortunately, di ba, nag-fall sila Adam and Eve, they did not follow God's commandment. All these number were claimed by Satan. So, itong numbers na to, yung 12, 4, 21, and 40, ay claim ni Satan. Therefore, the central figures in providential history must fulfill numerical periods of indemnity to restore the numbers 12, 4, 21, and 40. Ibig sabihin, dalawa yung ginagawa nila. When the numerical indemnity periods are being restored, they are also yung gagawin pa rin dapat ni Adam and Eve, yung numerical period na hindi nag-fall, ganun pa rin yung gagawin nila. So that what's make it more difficult during the indemnity time. Kasi nga, syempre, pag nag-overlap na yung condition mo, mas mahirap siya, di ba? Yun yung sinasabi lang dito. Mas mabigat yung condition. Kasi nga, dalawa na siya. Nag-overlap siya. Kasi yung pa rin yung kailangan nilang i-fulfill eh. Pero at this time, mas matagal, siya dahil nga nag-i-indemnify ka na. Nagbabayad ka at the same time. Kaya nga, times 3, di ba? So, ano ba yung significance ng mga numbers 12, 4, 21, and 40? Let's start first with the perfect embodiment of 12 and perfect embodiment of 4. So, remember that ang sabi dito, in order for human being to attain perfection, they must form 4-position foundation. Sabihin, 4-position foundation. Paano ba nakaka-perform ng 4-position foundation? Si God, yung origin, and then magdi-divide siya into subject element and object element, and then the subject and element form a interrelationship, tapos yung tawag doon, yung result of the interrelationship centered on God is the union, di ba? Yun yung thus forming the 4-position foundation. So lahat ng na in order to fulfill the 3 great blessings, all entities in the created universe must form a 4-position foundation centering with God. Kasi ito yung basis ng existent development and sustainability of life on the created world. So, first, paano ba nangyayari yung perfect embodiment of number 12? So, we know that there are 3 stages of growth: the formation, growth, and completion. And within the in the formation stage, in each of these 3 stages, a 4-position foundation must be magkakapag-fulfill dapat each entities of the creation must be able to fulfill position foundation in each of these stages. So 4 times 3 stages for position foundation, it's equal to 12. That is the when humanity has become a perfectly formed four position foundation in these 3 stages, and they can now perfect the embodiment of 12. Just like dun sa, ano diba, yung formation stage is individual perfection, family perfection, for may four position foundation yan, di ba? And then yung perfection of dominion for position foundation. Mag na-complete natin lahat yung na yon is that's the na-attain or the perfect embodiment of number 12 is being accomplished. And yung perfect embodiment of 4 naman is that Adam and Eve need to individually, Adam and Eve need to form four position foundation in the formation in these 3 stages. Pero after they fulfill these 3 stages, di ba? Perfect na ba sila? Hindi pa, di ba? Hindi pa naman sila perfect. So, they need to become successful sa completion stage na ay Adam and Eve individually so that makarating sila sa 4th stage. And that when they reach perfection, after completing the completion stage, they reach perfection, which is the 4th stage, which is the perfection realm or the direct dominion realm wherein they become one with God. That's the meaning of number 4, perfect embodiment of number 4. So, how about the perfect embodiment of number 21? Ano naman siya? So again, talagang may 4 position foundation in every stage. So paano nagkaroon ng 7, di ba? We know very well kanina, umpisa pa lang natin, God is a being of number 3, di ba? And in fulfilling the 4 position foundation, in accomplishing the 4 position foundation, kailangan mo ng di ba? 4 positions. Yung or there are 3 object purpose. There are 3 object purpose, di ba? There are 3 object purpose. Plus yung kapag na-fulfill mo yung 3 object purpose, meron result yan, di ba? Yung unity doon sa baba, yung result. So, nagkaroon ka ng nagkaroon ka ng 4 positions, di ba? Naka-create ka ng 4 positions, and this one is representative of the 4 directions of the earth na nag-expand yon. Pag yung 4 direction, yung north, south, east, west, diba? So yun yon. So which is since yung number 3 is the number of God and it also signifies heaven, siya din yung 7, yung number 4, since yung 4 position is ang representative, ang meaning ng number 4 is yung 4 directions na yon, yung north, east, south, west, is significant niya is number 4. So 3 plus 4 is number 7. In each of the stage, kaya meron tayong 3 dito, 7, 7, 7 in the 3 stages, that's equal to 21, which pag na-fulfill yon, this is the perfect embodiment of number 21. How about perfect embodiment of 40. Paano yon? So, in each of the formation of the three stages, the formation, growth, and completion stage, uh, meron niyang it is each of this stage is divided into sub-stages, which is meron din siyang sub-stage meron din siyang sub-stage ng formation, growth, and completion in each stage. So lahat ng to meron siya. So which is yung significant ng number 9. Pag na-fulfill to hanggang sa so yun yung significant ng the 9 stages lahat siya, di ba? Pero may 10th stage. You 10th level when you reach perfection. Pag nag-reach ka ng perfection, ibig sabihin, this is, ang number 10 means unity with God. Kasi nakapag-unite ka na kay God dito eh. Diba? Na-reach mo yung perfection, naging one with God ka. So it means it's unity with God. Yun yung significance ng number 10. So yun yung 4 position foundation plus times the 10th level para ma-reach mo yung 3 para ma-reach mo yung perfection is that yun yung significant ng number 40. And this is the perfect embodiment of 40. Again, ito lahat yung dadaanan kahit hindi nag-fall si Adam and Eve. Kahit naging successful sila, lahat ng ito dadaanan pa rin nila. So in the process of restoration, in the principle of restoration, same principle pa rin yung susundan nila. Kaya lang, kailangan lang kasi mag-indemnify. Sabi ko nga, na-doble na yung condition. Yung talagang yung condition na tatahakin nila, they need to fulfill all this. Kailangan kasi nilang i-restore to eh. Yung mga naipatalo nila kay Satan when they become they fall into the dominion of Satan, naging yung quality of this number were invaded by Satan, so they need to restore this number. That's the reason why na may 12 disciples kasi yun may 4, may 21, yun yung 40 days ni yung 12 disciples ni Jesus Christ, tapos yung 4. Para ba yung 4? Yung 4 position foundation. Tapos yung 21, 210 years of and then yung 40 na nakikita natin sa principle of restoration. And this ends my sharing of our sharing of chapter 3. The meaning? Mahirap. The periods in Providential history and determination of their length. So ito yung mga significant numbers that we need to restore. Thank you for listening. Any questions? We are now ready to accept questions. Miss Christine, meron ba tayong Meron ba tayong Wheel of Fortune? Mag-Wheel of Fortune tayo.
Taka po, gagawa po muna ako. Taka po.
Okay. questions muna. Meron pang question bago yung reflection. About the about chapter 3. Wala? Dalawa lang daw ang ibig sabihin pag tahimik eh. Walang naintindihan or naintindihan. Alin sa dalawa? Any question, Miss Roche?
Yes po. Ako ba?
Oo.
Meron po.
May question ka?
Wala naman po.
Ganon.
Ayan,
Wala kang naintindihan? Wala kang naintindihan? Oh, grabe talaga.
Meron naman po. Kaso, sabi kasi ni ate question. So, ayan.
Wala daw. So you want to proceed with the reflection?
Reflection. Okay. Wait lang po. Sige. Wait lang ate
Okay. Willing to wait.
Ay. Ayan. Good evening po. Naririnig po ba?
Yes po, ate, naririnig ko po.
Minute pala ng anak ko.
Since, ayun, yung masyado ko lang narinig sa lecture. Kasi hindi tinatapos ako na school years. So, ayun po. Since we study the prolongation, kung paano naging na-prolong yung providence of restoration because of the yung mga failure ng mga central figure na kailangan yung foundation of faith natin is ma-establish natin. And then it is important na i-fulfill natin ang ating portion of responsibility. Ganun. So, since kung narinig na lecture na ayun, hit ancestors. So, kailangan pa rin natin pagdaanan yung mga yung mga years na natin na mga So, parang napaisip ako na sabi ko, kailangan pa din pala yun kahit hindi failure yung mga ancestors natin. So parang so ibig sabihin yung mga years na plan na ni God ba? Yan. Doon pala ako napaisip ate, sorry, nung tinanong mo ako kung may question ako. So ayun, lang po ako, napatanong lang po ako dun. Bigla lang po ako napaisip na kahit hindi mag-failure yung mga that time. So, yung aanuhin natin na years is andun talaga siya, Hello po.
Hi.
Ayan. Okay, tama po ba yung ate? Yung narinig ko?
Yes.
Or, yes po. Ay, yun na kahit,
Actually, yes, tama siya, ma'am.
okay po.
Balik natin. Gusto ko ibalik yun dun. Gusto kong ibalik dun sa ito. I-share ko ulit itong na to.
May number yung message dito. Yung comment.
Paano ko ba siya i-share? Hindi ko alam paano siya. Ay, nagugulo na. Mas magaling, na to si Sir Herwin eh. Ito kasi, di ba? Ano yan? Nakikita niyo yung screen ko? Ito yung sinasabi kasi dito eh. Nandito when they accomplish the purpose of creation, they would become the perfect embodiments of the quality of the first human, and they are to lay foundation of faith. So sabi nga, foundation of faith, ganun pa rin naman kasi ang foundation of faith, kahit na hindi and substance, kailangan i-lay ni Adam and Eve. Kasi yun yung, di ba, sila yung first human ancestor so that they need to establish a model. Di ba? Kailangan nila mag-establish ng model. So mag-relate pa rin sila ng foundation of faith and foundation of substance. Ang mas madali nga lang dahil foundation of faith is that they just need to follow God's commandment, di ba? And then when they follow God's commandment, yung foundation of substance is they need to interact with each other, and then live yung, di ba, yung foundation of substance nila, they need to interact and to relate with each other, di ba? Ay una, individual perfection, di ba? Pero may pa rin yun. They need to go through yung process of the numerical growing period, which is ito yung numerical growing period nila, yung formation, growth, and completion. Yung tatlo na to. Kasi God is a being of number 3, di ba? Sandali. Ito. Nawawala. Basta may pangalan siya kasi. Di ba ang pangalan nito, formation, nasa baba, from the, formation, growth, and ito yung 3 stages of growing period. So, dadaanan pa rin nila yung 3 stages of growing period na to. So, which is centering on number 3, which is God's number. And in all this, merong 4 position foundation na gagawin nila ito. Bawat isa nito, meron silang lahat ng to for position foundation. Kaya nga sinasabi natin perfect embodiment of 4, di ba? Lahat ng to, dadaan sila ng 3 stages, which is the number of God. Tapos ito rin, lahat ng yan, magpo-form sila ng 4 position foundation in order for them to perfect their character or perfect individual perfection, di ba? So may 4 ka dito, may 4 ka dito, may 4 ka diyan. So that's times the 3 stages para ma-perfect mo yung character mo, kailangan mag-form ka ng 4 position foundations formation stage. Yun yung individual perfection. And then after you perfect and you're now ready to multiply, kailangan magkaroon ka ng isang partner na ganyan. Tapos 4 position foundation pa rin dito. Kaya 4, 4, 4 dito. 4 times 3 equals 12. Yun yun. So, ganun pa rin sila. Ito yung dadaanan pa rin, yun yung sinasabi natin na dadaanan pa rin nila itong numerical period na to. Pero, na walang nakaharang, walang ini-indemnify na sin. Naintindihan nyo? Yun yung ibig sabihin nito. And then, they need to individually, Adam and Eve needs to reach perfection, di ba? They need to reach perfection, which is yun yung embodiment ng number 4, kasi yun yung stage na naging perfect sila, di ba? Yun yung ibig sabihin nung 4, individually Adam and Eve, kaya nga naka A and B dito. Si Adam at saka si Eve, individually, they need to become perfect. Yun. And then dito naman siya, so kailangan kasi, di ba, yung sinasabi natin, yung corporal and incorporeal world, di ba? Kasi kailangan ma-perfect mo yung four position foundation sa 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 earth, sa physical world, and also in the spirit world. And then you need to, and then yun, sa formation, growth, and completion. Para, di ba, the kingdom of heaven, ang mangyayari muna yung kingdom of heaven here on earth, as well in, para ma-perfect mo yon, pati sa incorporeal world, you need to ma-perfect mo yung embodiment of 21. Yung ibig sabihin nun. Both, the cosmos, di ba? Ito yon. And then, ito namang perfect embodiment of 10, ito siya. Ito yung dadaanan ni Adam and Eve kahit hindi sila nag-fall. So, yun yung sinasabi natin, pinapaliwanag namin kanina ni Miss Christine, na hindi, tawag dito, nalimutan ko yung sasabihin. Ayun. Ito rin yun naman perfect embodiment of 40. Yun yung 10th level. Kailangan talaga kasi, ang goal ng principle of creation is three great blessings, di ba? Perfection of the three great blessings, or fulfillment of the three great blessings. And then becoming one with God. So, perfection pa rin yung hinano natin. Kaya yung 10th level dito sa, may 10th level times 4 of the 4 position foundation is that, kasi hindi ka naman kailangan mo maging perfect individually, family, saka dominion, di ba? So, ganun pa rin siya. Kaya, 10 times, is embodiment of 40. So, pareho pa rin yun. Yun. Yung restoration kasi is the same as recreation. So, kung ano yung principle ng principle of creation, it is being followed also in ganun din yung formula niya. Ang formula nung principle of creation na hindi pa nagkakasala is the same formula yung susundin sa restoration. Yun yung pala yung ibig ko sabihin. So, yun yung nawawala. I think, ewan ko kung mas magaling yata si Sir Herwin paliwanag dito. SOS, Sir Herwin. Diba? Kung hindi ka naman kasi ang goal pa rin natin, perfection. So, kailangan lang tayo matanggal yung original sin natin. Sa restoration, kailangan matanggal ng Messiah yung original sin natin. So that, pero magko-continue, after na matanggal yon, magko-continue tayo sa process of growing up. Yung naiwan nila, ang last, di ba, nandoon tayo sa nag-fall si Adam and Eve dun sa top of the growth stage, di ba? So, through the blessing, hindi na tayo mag-isa, hindi tayo, because of the foundation nga of our true parents, through the blessing, together with our spouse, when we receive the blessing, we can now go into continue our grow into perfection. Yun yun. Ganun siya. Okay na ba yun? Did I clarified it further, Miss Roche?
Yes po, ate. Okay na po. Thank you po.
Wheel of Fortune na ba tayo, sir, ma'am?
Okay, ready na po yung Wheel of Fortune. So let's have another reflection. Let's spin the wheel. Okay, let's welcome Ate Mary Joy. Welcome. Hey, Mary J. Sorry, Mary J. Sorry po. Sorry.
Good evening po, leaders, brothers and sisters, and lecturers.
Miss Mary J, can I points of reflection? So, palagi natin kasi sinasabi na we wanted to do our portion of responsibility in after hearing this lecture. How do we substantially fulfill our portion of responsibility na sinasabi? So that hindi na magre-repeat yung in our level as in our level individual level natin as we in our life of faith, how do we fulfill our portion of responsibility so that we will not repeat the mistake or the failures in history so that it would not be prolonged in our level as individual.
Okay po. Ma-share ko lang po doon is so for myself sa tingin ko na which is reflect ko sa sarili ko na which is parang possible na magawa ko, which is yung parang for me it's dapat meron akong i-goal sa sarili ko na parang ma-contribute ko na hindi na ulit makulong yung yung providence of restoration na yan po. For me, sa simpleng bagay lang po, siguro I need to put God first before anything else. Like we should avoid making choices or decisions like without consulting or reporting to God first. And like if I have dreams in my life to fulfill, I need to offer it first to God. And then like kung ano man yung bagay na na dapat natin gawin like sinabi ko na to report God, to consult first to God, like how we treat people na yun, I mean how we treat people like in a good way. Hindi dapat ginawa natin yun kasi ginusto lang natin. Dapat yung parang ihabit natin sa sarili natin na yun dapat ang ginagawa natin. Ganun po.
Thank you, Miss Mary G.
Thank you so much, Ate Mary J. Okay, let's move to another reflection. Okay, let's welcome Kuya Mikael, 5678. Welcome, Kuya.
Okay, good evening, brothers and sisters. Thank you po sa lecturers and staff, and thank you po sa wonderful lecture, Ate Christine and Ate Relina. So, ayun, my sharing for tonight would be about, huh, general lang na, ng general, um, I don't know the word, pero ayun nga. Yeah, so, yun nga 'di ba? So, yung ano pa rin na to is yung ano ng indemnification, and na-mention na rin kaganina na each time a central figure fails or an attempt for indemnification fails, kailangang ma-prolong dahil nga kailangang completely ma-restore, and also I think there's also a condition na kung bakit napoprolong yun. And ayun nga, not just I think not just because there are certain conditions na and other nuances within that process, pero na rin mismo kasi we still have to add, we must not forget na Satan is part of the equation as to why we need to fulfill indemnification. And ayun nga, with with Abraham, with Moses, with Jesus, it was yun nga, and the indemnification process was prolonged, and each time na na the process was prolonged, the difficulty was also increased. And with our era, or with our phase of indemnification, I mean, even though it's still on a global level, same with Jesus Christ, pero ngayon yung central figure natin is our true parents. It's still the same. And yun nga, even though Jesus has only succeeded in the spiritual salvation, it still had to factor in yung success ng humanity. And yun nga 'di ba yung isa sa yung I mean not isa yung condition ng salvation na isinet ni Jesus Christ for ayun nga, is for us to be believers, for us to have faith. And yun nga, yun yung difference ngayon with our era, is we not just have to believe, but we also have to take action, and also yun nga, receive the blessing. Saan na nga ba ito papunta? Yun, with that being said, since there have been multiple failures in the past, where we not just have to redeem ourselves, pero kailangan rin nating i-redeem yung mga ancestors natin, which is why ayun nga 'di ba na the reaching perfection is so difficult, is because of those failures. And hindi naman, I think yung yung I mean, walang idea yung sharing ko ngayon, pero I think I've reached it. And yung point ko lang is of this sharing is yun nga, na to attain yung perfection na we seek, and redemption as well, is yun nga, it's going to take multiple generations. It's not just going to be achieved by fourth generation or sixth or even 10th, I think. Kasi with so much sins that have been accumulated, so much failure. There's so much to be there's a lot to indemnify. Hindi lang yung original sin, kundi yung sin na nagather ng mga ancestors natin from from Adam and Eve down to yung buong natin, family tree natin. Kaya although yun nga 'di ba na sinabi na no matter how long it takes, God will wait for us. Pero that does not mean that we should rush, because there are things that yun nga 'di ba, total restoration yung sinisik natin. And although of course, even if we receive the blessing, even if we go to heaven when we reach the spirit world, it doesn't mean na we're at the ewan ko kung ano yung exact na I forgot the nuance nga kasi adaming nuances, adaming complications with that part. Pero yun nga, I think it's going to take, I mean, sure, we're going to restore or indemnify a lot, considering how early how much foundation our true parents have laid. Pero it's going to take some time to completely restore the lineage, God's lineage to humanity. Pero yun nga, it's a long journey. So and let's just stay faithful and strong along throughout that journey. And ayun lang, that's all. Thank you.
I
Thank you
forgot
so
to,
much po. Ay, sige, ate, go on po.
actually, thank you, Mr. Michael. Pero I forgot to emphasize pala na even though we are given ang formula is that, ano, ah, kailangan kong i-emphasize pala yun. So, practice ko in-emphasize ko, nakalimutan ko. Even though God is allowing na yung 3 times yung prolongation in within 3 times, di ba? Pero it doesn't mean na i-max out natin yung 3 times. Kailangan ba? Although we are not supposed to wait for that ma-prolong again 3 times. Just like in our time, di ba? Sabi ni Mother, God cannot wait anymore. Di ba? So, we are on the second, lahat naman tayo member dito. At ba? We are on the second 7-year course. So, kailangan po bang mag-third 7-year course? So, yun yung mas mahirap sa tingin ko, tawag doon? Personally, I feel kahit na meron tayong 3 times, ay 3 chances. 3 chances ba tawag doon? So, hindi natin dapat i-max up yung ating yung 3 na yon, yung 3 times prolongation na binibigay sa atin ni God. Especially, mas mahirap siguro kung we should do it while one of the true parents is still living with us. So, yun.
Ate Relina, may I speak out on that?
Yes.
What I mean by that is hindi po yung pag-receive ng entirety of humanity ng blessing. Kasi I mean, of course, yun nga yung part ng 'di ba? Yung part po ng salvation is receiving the blessing. And I mean, I mean, in all honesty, hindi nam in all honesty, even if somehow lahat po ng lahat po ng tao, no matter what disposition, no matter what status, no matter what standing, lahat po naka-receive ng blessing. I mean, does that does that already pertain to total salvation? Like, biglang magically lahat ng evil nature nila mawawala? I mean, it still has to be worked on naman po, 'di ba?
Ah,
And
yeah.
I think yun nga po yung sinasabi ko na 6 generations, no matter how many generations, it would still take time to overcome those evil nature, kasi even though yun nga po, 'di ba? Even though one has received the blessing and sure one has been raised properly within the principle, once they're exposed, we still can't deny na it's still a world of it's still Satan's world, and we're still trying to restore God's lineage, and yun nga, yung we're still trying to restore heaven on the earth, and yun nga, yun lang yung na
Ah,
I think that part will take time. Hindi po yung
ah, yeah.
yung pag-receive ng entirety of humanity ng blessing, and also pag-receive nila ng principle.
Yes. I also agree on that na hindi naman talaga kaagad na ah, hindi kaagad mangyayari yung sinasabi natin. Kasi nga, we have been living for almost 6,000 biblical years na in the dominion of Satan. Hindi naman talaga mawawala yun. Even as we receive the blessing, even as me as a blessed member, hindi ko naman sinasabi na hindi ko pa rin talaga siya, hindi ko pa rin siya talaga, I cannot say I'm perfect, diba? I'm trying to be, to be one, but then, hindi ganun kadali. Hindi nga, totoo yun, hindi ganun kadali. And, what I'm trying to say is that, if we can accelerate it, okay, the providence, if we can accelerate it, we must do
Yes
our
po,
best
yes po.
to accelerate the expansion of the blessing. Pero hindi natin sinasabi na talagang magic na mawawala yun. Of course, hindi gano'n.
Opo, opo.
Hindi yun. But if we can accelerate it and not prolong it to the kahit nga yung lang, yung 1/3 lang, yun yung sinasabi natin. Siguro, malaking yun. Yung sinasabi ni Mother na 1/3 of the 7.8 billion people is naka-receive ng blessing. Pero naka-receive lang naman ng blessing yun eh. First stage lang naman yun eh. But please, it means a lot for the providence. Kasi nga, uh, kasi, ako I still believe in the, yun yung dun sa, yun sa blessing, yung sabihin nating magic of the blessing as laid by our true parents, na sinasabi nila once these people receive the blessing, ibig sabihin one person natanggal mo sa hell, yung destination niya na hindi na hell kundi dun sa, 'di ba, hindi na siya dun sa hindi na siya nandoon na sa blessed family realm, 'di ba? Yun. Hindi ang destination niya, kumbaga nababawasan natin yung mga tao na ang destination ay hell.
Opo.
Because of the fall, ang destination lahat talaga, sa totoo lang, yun. Ang destination is hell. Pero once na na-receive nila yung blessing, hindi na nila destination yet. Higher realm siya in the spirit world. Yun yung sinasabi. Yun. And it is, it's a great accomplishment if we can do that. Even just the blessing alone na mabigyan sila nun. Conditional siya, which is lahat naman ng blessing is conditional. Dependent upon our fulfillment of our portion of responsibility.
Opo. Thank you po.
Thank you din, Sir Michael.
Thank you so much, Kuya Miguel. Thank you po, Ate Rodina. Okay, let's proceed with another reflection. Um, and then, okay, let's welcome brothers and sisters at Nelji. Welcome po.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, brothers and sisters.
Na-click na. Oo daw.
Naririnig po.
Ako narinig po.
I'm sorry. Uy, wag ka tumawa.
Ayan, na-click na.
Yan, okay na. Yeah, good evening po. What is this? So, yun nga, the more na, good evening na ako. Di ba po? Good evening na po ako. Good evening po. Tas, yeah, good evening po. Yun nga po sa ano natin ngayon sa lecture is like, the more na, parang nagpi-fail tayo is lalong, bibigat yung responsibility natin na kailangan i-fulfill kasi di ba nga po nagmo-multiply siya. So, um, so yeah, kailangan talaga natin siguro yung attitude natin towards yung attitude natin na like yung sabi ni Mary J kanina na hindi lang dapat hindi natin dapat gawin yung isang bagay dahil kailangan kundi gawin nating habit. Kasi if hindi natin gagawin yon, it's just like parang siguro mas pag lalong bibigat yung responsibility, mas lalong hindi natin ma-fulfill and then magsasuffer lang din yung mga yung sa future generation. Like, ganun. Ayun po. Thank you. So, yeah. Ay,
Thank you, Miss Melchi. Miss Melchi, are you, ano na yung status? Status ng matching or blessing application mo?
for now po, hindi pa po. Kasi,
Hindi ka pa nag-apply.
paano ba? Marami pa pong kailangan.
I-charge up na.
Kasi, mag-share ako. Hihira.
Kasi
Kasi,
ko nga natanong si Mr. Michael tatanungin ko nga sana siya Pero hindi ko.
kasi,
Pero sige, mamaya ko natanongin si Sir Michael.
kailangan ko pong hindi pa po siya yung ganun na ka-priority kasi, meron pa po akong board exam. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yes po. Po.
Board exam saan?
CPA po. To be kept.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Pero nagre-review ka na ngayon?
Yes po. Ngayon po.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck sa yung review.
Yeah, thank you po.
Sir Michael, how about you? Ano ba yung status ng iyong pwede mo makialam? Nakialam? Curious lang ako. Pwedeng bumalik kay Sir Michael. How is the status of your matching or blessing application?
Ano po? Nag-ano po sa mga requirements. Nagko-comply po sa mga requirements.
I'm happy to hear that.
So,
Sige, paliwanag ka.
I mean, as far as matching and blessing, I really don't know the process. Pero ginaguide naman po ako in regards with the requirements, and I mean I understand that part na may mga requirements and that I have to comply with them. Pero in regards po sa yung mga forms and whatnot, wala po akong idea. Kaya ano lang po. For now, ano lang po, I'm just doing those parts.
Ah, actually, kasi ang tatanungin ko nga sa'yo is, kasi there are, second generation who doesn't like to, to be honest, I am also informed na maraming second gen that they don't like to participate in the blessings or the magic. So, so I was just asked. I'm curious, kaya curious ako. So, and I'm happy to know that you are working on it. Thank you. Good
Thank
luck
you rin
sa
po.
preparation mo.
Thank you po.
Okay. Yung next na, Miss Christine, ating Wheel of Fortune.
Okay, let's welcome Kuya Nicole. 5678. Welcome po.
Okay, good evening, leaders, brothers and sisters. Thank you po for the lecturing our Ate Lina. So, anyway, it's a very good topic. It's like si God kasi is siya, yung talagang siya, masasabi mo yung effort niya sa pag-save talaga ng human beings as the children of God. So, it's not just a simple lang na effort yung niya, yung mga action na ginawa niya, yung mga moves. There's a certain preparation time. So, nag-aantay siya ng mga gumagawa talaga siya ng procedure. So, ganun ka, God has make a lot of strategic in order to save human beings. Kasi, because of the failure of our first human ancestors, this world become naging forbidden siya or naging naging very yung mundo is very crucial. Kaya it takes nag-exert si God ng more effort and gumawa siya ng mga system, mga process in order lang na human beings can lift up the spirit. So kung makikita natin, meron siyang tinatawag na mathematical. God is the mathematical in terms of giving salvation sa human beings. Kasi yun ang niya paraan niya, even na kung makikita mo sa creation niya, meron tinatawag na mathematical pag na sinusunod si God. So, God working so hard, so ni-restore na yung growing period, page ng formation, growth, and completion. That is the number 3. Tsaka nung na-setting niya yung number 3, at the same time, sinet niya rin yung 4 position foundation. Kasi yung 4 position foundation, nandun siya based sa tinatawag natin na yung nawala na 3 great blessing. Yung naman, yung process naman ng formation, growth, and completion, nasa proseso yun siya ng individual perfection niya ng human beings, kaya na-lost na rin. Kaya God makes also some way in order that it can make some vertical connection yung tao for God, yung creator nga. So, actually, yung providence of restoration or providence of salvation, it's can compare nga sa tinatawag natin na spiral movement, which is na yung umiikot siya palaki ng palaki, ganon. With this on the time, sa time ni Jacob creates the family. At the same time, sa time ng ni Moses, magkaroon ng starting na mag-create ng nagpaplano na si God to build when Jacob entered that yung mga tribal foundation pa lang, which is yung naman ni Satan nga sa national siya. Pero in the time that Jacob victory, nagkaroon naman ng tinatawag na future si Jacob, which is na revealed sa mga nation which is called na Israel. Kaya yun siya up until now, makikita natin God is working to give salvation the worldwide level by the base of spiral movement ng kanyang creation, yung pagsisave na sa human beings. So, we are so grateful sa sa effort na yon. At the same time, God make ang gusto talaga ni God's tao, actually they want it na yung buhay ng tao maging safety. Gusto niya maging safety. Safety first ang yung ginagawa ni God. Kasi ganun si God eh. Pinaprioritize na yung safetyness sa human being. Safety first ang gusto niya. Kaya gumawa siya ng mga procedure talaga na nalay niya. Kasi God is isa siyang mamahambing natin siya isang engineer. Kung magawa ka ng isang building, napakahirap gagawin yun. Kaya kailangan mga ka talaga in order ma-build mo yun. So, in this world, yung creation niya, na-collapse yun dahil sa tao, kaya gumawa siya ng lahat ng bagay na order na ma-build ulit yun siya. So, it takes a long time na inantay ni God yun. So, in order that human beings can reach perfection. So, thank you so much for this day as we receive this kind of lecture inspiration. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much rin po, Kuya Nicole. Let's all give a hand to Kuya Nicole, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much. Okay, let's proceed to our last two participants here. Okay, okay, let's welcome Ate Catherine, class 678. Welcome po.
Good evening po. Naririnig po?
Yes po, narinig ko po.
Okay. Good evening everyone, leaders, elders, lecturers, brothers and sisters. For me, sige, I make it short. Para sa akin yung sa knowing the significant numbers, tsaka yung know how important this is in our daily life. For me, it stands as guidance for us to fulfill our responsibility. It directed us to the right path and to be able to be connected to the Messiah. A new beginning, accordance to God's will, that will lead us to all as individual restoration. So, yun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you so much po, Ate Catherine. Although it was short, thank you so much for sharing your heart. Let's all give a hand to everyone, brothers and sisters. Wala na pala sa Ate Jana. Okay. Yeah, matapos na tayo sana. Are there any other questions that the participants may have? Brothers and sisters, baka may questions kayo. If you have, you can raise your concerns now. So we can discuss. We still have 16 minutes before the time. Ayun. Okay pa ba tayong lahat? Brothers and sisters, okay pa naman tayo. Nga pala, I would like to acknowledge those participants na nasa YouTube, kahit nasa YouTube nakikinig pa rin. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us. Yan lang. Yeah. OT? Hindi tayo
Overtime.
Overtime. Oo, hindi tayo mag-overtime. Hindi tayo mag-overtime. Sige. I think you don't have any other questions. I guess everybody is. I hope you're all doing fine, brothers and sisters. Let's proceed na lang to any additional from our elders. Let's start with Mama. Mama, do you have anything to add? the discussion or anything.
Uulitin ko din lang yun. But anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, brothers and sisters, of course, to our elders, Kuya Randy and Kuya Herwin. Isa lang siguro, I'm if, since you asked me, but I am just going to repeat the same na katulad ng sinabi, this one thing that really inspires me all the time, that especially for us all, that we know the truth. We are very fortunate enough because yeah, we're given this privilege to know the truth during our lifetime, unlike those majority of the people who didn't know yet. However, yeah, may mga mission tayo, but that mission has to get started within ourselves. That's why we have to perfectly embody all those numbers na 12, 4, 21, and 40. Kasi nga, as we know, alam natin na all those numbers are the mission of each and every one of us. Yeah, that has to supposedly that has to be started, that has to get started in Adam and Eve. And yun yung mission natin sa life. Yun yung purpose natin sa life. Doon din natin makukuha yung, ma-realize yung true value natin as a human being, being the center of the creation. Para ma-inherit natin yung oneness, para ma-achieve natin oneness with God. Yung perfect embodiment nga. So yeah, it's just that this time we have to yun mga sinasabi, mga challenges and difficulties is because we have to restore. We have to indemnify first. Yeah, yung first two stages natin of in the course of restoration, yun yung for indemnity pa lamang. And then after receiving the blessing, actually it is likened to same thing pa rin naman yung stages kasi yung after reaching the completion of realizing or reaching the top stage of the growth stage, yun din yun naman ang yung that should be the time that we should receive the blessing. And only this time na after receiving the blessing, saka pa lang tayo, we at the present time, saka pa lang tayo mag-uumpisa to realize perfection of oneself. However, kung hindi sana nagkasala si Adam at saka si Eve, yung for position foundation sana on the individual level, on the formation stage, nare-realize na sana. So ngayon hindi iba yung nangyari, di ba? Kasi ano pa, indemnity condition pa lahat. Yun sa dalawang stages ang gawin natin. Tapos on top of that growth stage, saka pa lang tayo mag-uumpisa uh, so doon tayo maging qualified, I should say, equal footing as that at the time when Adam and Eve has not fallen yet. So yun yung yun yung mas mahirap na path, of course, na kailangan nating i-go through. And then yung discussion na yeah, yung I am very inspired with that declaration of True Mother na one third, because externally speaking, if one third of the people could receive the blessing and somehow with our efforts of educating them, that would actually externally create an impact to the world. Externally, they will be able to say, oh, what's going on with these people? This is something that everyone is seeking. They can really already substantially see result of the truth. This is my own realization. So then people will just know, it would be like naturally, they will naturally follow because they already have created that model as a whole, as a nation, more than beyond a nation. Yun yung model course ng whole world na. So yun yung magiging yan ako inspired kumbaga. Of which of course, katulad nung gusto ko lang i-remind tayong lahat na we don't have to reach the third or the maximum level of God's tolerance, because we should no longer afford to do that, because for thousands of years God has arduously working for it to be realized, for our true parents to come. Kasi nga lahat, both man and woman are destined to become true parents. That has to be set supposedly by Adam and Eve. So yun yung dapat nating i-achieve. Yun yung dapat natin i-realize. So as blessing candidates, as matching candidates, we should reflect deeply on that. What is the task that I have to do individually for me to be able to really embody God's
for us to really embody God's image or resemble God's image. Yun yung purpose natin. And then naturally, we will just become one with the heart of God, with the will of God, and with the intellect of God. Kaya nga, yun sabi ni ate, yung mga magic of having received the blessing, it's, yeah, for us, it seems to be a magic, but that is supposed to be natural, a natural occurrence in every human being that has existed. Kasi yun yung purpose ni God. Why? Kung naturally kasi, pagka nakarit tayo ng perfection, um, God endowed to us intellect, emotion, and will. So, natural natin yung ma-realize and become one with it. Parang ganun. So, become, talagang tayo yung substantial embodiment of God na. Yun lang po. Thank you po.
Thank you so much din po. Ibahan. Okay, maybe any additional from Kuya Ray? Do you have anything to add to that?
Sige. First time. So, ilan yung blessing candidate? Isa, dalawa, tatlo. So, the question is, are we really, really naman tayo sa matching or really naman tayo mag-accept ng blessing? So, 21 days is very short knowledge. So parang lang, pakunti pa yung knowledge sa 21 days. So even though discuss siya yung 16 chapters, but the fully understanding of the restoration process is continuing education and continuing practice. Kapag sa inyo ngayon, you learn, you believe what you have learned, then later on you have to practice it. Then practice it, after practicing it, then you have to live it by. Not only physically, but also spiritually. So yung tungkol sa blessing, kung hindi lang sana nagkasala siya na Adan ni Eva, wala tayong blessing. So hindi nagkasala siya na Adan ni Eva, yung restoration process, hindi na kailangan. So yung numbers na pag-aralan kanina, ilan yung mga numbers na naalala niyo? So yung numbers, bagong sa algebra pa yun. Yun yung mga formula ni God sa restoration process. So because God is a God of mathematics, He has that formula in order to restore humankind from the beginning. Even pag-create pa lang niya sa world, He used numbers also. So yung restoration process niya, yung mga numbers kanina, is a formula for us to restore from this fallen world and to the realizations of the kingdom of heaven. So yung tungkol sa blessing, the blessing is only one stage. Primary is blessing. If you accept it, you will receive the blessing. So the blessing is the very first stage of the restoration process. So ayan ang pinaka-importante. So yung understand natin ang blessing. Kasi pag hindi natin understand ang applications not be implemented also. So kaya kailangan natin sa inyo, sa atin, lahat. So even though marami na tayong millions of brothers and sisters have already been blessed, so but still our world is the same. No? So because not all people are already receiving the blessing, and not all people have been receiving the blessing are practicing what has been being teach also. So yung blessing is the first stage para ma-realize natin yung will ni God nga triggered blessing. So kung hindi tayo mag-start sa blessing, what will happen? So hindi namin mararating yung seven generations na sinasabi. So the restoration of the world comes from each and every one of us, okay? Because the blessing is the primary stage para mapunta tayo sa pinaka-will talaga ni God. So even though humankind, sabi natin, even though all humankind are being blessed, so but still, it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that the world will be totally saved. Because blessing, when you're receiving the blessing, is not just believing and practicing. So until nga ma-fulfill natin yung blessing, yung sinabi ni God. So first stage yung blessing, then another stage na naman yung yung restoration. Restoration sa second generations, restoration sa third generations, restoration sa fourth generations, then restoration sa hanggang sa seven generations. So mayroon sa yung mga processes diyan. So dito sa 21 days, your understanding about the restoration process is nandiyan na. So in actual sense, sa mga speeches ni Father, so marami nang ginagawa. So not only speaking of physical restoration, but also spiritual restoration. So sa ngayon, it's mas importante na you have learned the matching, you have learned the blessing, the important blessing, then you have learned the restoration process, the formula God, in order you will be the source. The source is magiging source tayo isa-isa. So not only other people, but tayo mismo magiging source ng restorations. So yan siguro. There may more to say. So marami na sa ibigay, pero sa oras is thank you very much.
Brothers and sisters, so can I ask Kuya Herwin to lead us the closing prayer? Kuya Herwin.
In prayer. Our Heavenly Parents, touch for night together with the sisters. We are always thankful for having us hear your words. Pray that through these simple webinars that have found realize everything Father in heaven. The next stage of our life. I pray, Father heaven, that before that deepen our faith, relationship, that we could be for everything and over this prayer is
Brothers and sisters, thank you for attending. See you next meeting or Monday, diba? Ay, Tuesday. Sorry. Thank you po. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank you
po.
po.
Bye po. Good night po.
Good night. Gusto ayaw mag-good night. Ayaw mag-gift.
Bye po.